Michael Gomez, and I'm a real estate broker and an investor here in Nashville, Tennessee.
And I'm Seth Mosley, Grammy Award-winning songwriter and real estate investor.
We host a monthly meetup in Middle Tennessee for anyone who wants to build passive income, not only for retirement, but for today.
On the first Wednesday of every month, we bring in an expert from every area of investing to help you with things like finding deals, getting your financing locked in, asset protection, every kind of investing, so much more.
Our videos are all about delivering that content to you.
Go to musicandmoneyig.com for more info on our free monthly events. Hit subscribe on the page so you don't miss any awesome content, and hit that like button if you like it.
Don't let all the flair of my jacket distract you.
Here's the content.
So today we've got Jeff Lai, who's going to be talking to y'all about how to analyze real estate deals. Everybody give a nice warm welcome to Jeff Lai. So here's the clicker. This, if in case it doesn't work, which it's been a little funky, just push over.
Over? Okay. Which one? Okay. Hey everybody, how's it going? Good. Thank you everybody for coming out today. I really want to thank Seth and Michael for hosting me and having me out to speak today. I hope you guys learned something from my presentation about deal analysis. A little nervous, not a public speaker, but excited about real estate, so we can handle this. Well, yeah, my name is Jeff Lai. It looks like Lay or Lee, but it's German. It's actually pronounced Lai. But quick true story. I got a partner when I first started flipping houses, and his last name's Stoll, S-T-O-W-E-L-L. So yeah, we partner together. It's Lie and Stoll. Oh, you guys find great deals. How do you get them? Well, Lie and Stoll. Always be attorneys if real estate didn't work out. Sorry, that was a cheap shot at attorneys, but we'll get going here. Next. The manual? Okay. Cool. And just a little about me before we get started. Really want to thank my wife for helping me put this presentation together, because I just had black and white death by PowerPoint. So she put a picture of my daughter Summer up there. We're in Florida. But originally I'm from Powell, Wyoming. Not many people. Anybody from Wyoming? Anybody met anybody from Wyoming? It's okay. But I'm, yeah, me. But I'm a U.S. Veteran. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, enlisted. And yeah, thanks. Met my wife Samantha. She was also enlisted, and she's a Franklin native. So how many people are native to Franklin or Nashville area? Well, not me. I'm from Wyoming, but a few. See, that just shows the growth and the potential in real estate here. Everybody's moving in. But I transitioned, moved to Middle Tennessee in 2006, transitioned into real estate in 2008. I got my affiliates license. I was with Cry Like Realtors. Actually, a good friend of mine's here at Vaughn Rich Creek. We started out together in real estate. So, but I got an estimate, and I came up with this a couple years ago, so it's probably a few more, about 300 real estate deals, so kind of why to listen to me. I've done it a few times. Most of these are realtor transactions, but I've also got probably about 60 rehabs and about 40 wholesale deals. So, but all right, I'll stand over here by the clicker. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is deal analysis, the basics. And I think it's really important. I know a lot of people here are way more successful than I am, but the basics, I love hearing the basics. And I don't remember the name, but it was a famous sports coach that said, he just preached on the basics, because it becomes muscle memory, and it's just your foundation. So if I can help anybody new here with some basics, that'd be great, or anybody advanced investors with one other way to look at things, that's my goal today. Common formulas to know and use, mindset, and I'm going to stop midway today. I'll try and keep an eye on the time and open it up for questions, because a lot of the formula stuff can kind of get dull and heavy, so we'll open up questions so hopefully everybody doesn't fall asleep. And then the last thing, I've saved the best for last, mindset analysis. It doesn't do you any good to analyze real estate deals unless you have the right mindset on why you're doing it. And the very last, best for last, is a money tree plan for financial freedom. I've heard Seth mention the reason they started this group is financial freedom, to have passive income to exceed your expenses. And this is a plan a friend shared with me, and I'd like to share it with you today. It's a real simple plan. So, all right, moving forward. Deal analysis basics, know your why, types of deals. I think it's important to understand the different types of deals. Today we're really going to focus on the rental, though, because that's where you're going to get the financial freedom from. But a lot of the steps in the renovation and the rehabbing and flipping homes apply to rentals. If you use the BRRRR method where you buy, renovate, rent out, and refinance. So, and wholesale, I think it's just a good tool to have in your toolbox. How many people are familiar with wholesaling real estate? Oh, about everybody. That's great. So, yeah, and how many people have wholesale deals? A good bit. So good. So a lot of people are already doing it. That's great. And there's just a couple things to be careful. If you're licensed or not licensed, there's a right way to do it either way. So, and then parts of the deal. And that's what I'd like to spend the bulk of our speech on, the different parts and analyzing. So to start with, Spanky here, you need to know your why. And I know a lot of speakers, and I love mindset. I love hearing other speakers talk. They always start out with this, but I just want to kind of keep it simple. You don't have to go into too much detail here, but it's good to know that why you're doing this, why you're staying up late after your job, analyzing real estate deals, so you can always fall back on it, especially when you get in a tough deal, you're like, man, this is tough, and you want to give up, you can always fall back on your why. My why was just financial freedom by 40, or actually it was by 50, and I went to some seminar somewhere, and the guy said, you want a good piece of information? Just take your goal and cut it in half. I was like, oh, that's good. I'm glad I did, because I would have procrastinated 10 years and then started, but but I cut it down to 10 years, and I did that. I procrastinated about 5 years, and then the last 4 or 5 years, I've been buying rentals. So don't overthink it. Just keep it simple. Don't, why is the sky blue? You can keep asking why. But what's important, though, write it down. Some major university had done a study over a lifespan, and I think it was around 10% of the people that actually wrote their goals down had actually achieved them, but nobody that even had goals didn't make it anywhere. What's that old saying? If you don't know where you're going, anywhere will get you there. So it's important to know where you're going and why. So commit and do it. All right, to start off, the types of deals. Got this awesome picture of a flipped house. Everybody knows also rehabbing, retailing. Retailing, that was a term I didn't get, but that's buying under market and selling for retail value after it's all fixed up. So that formula is simple. Buy under market minus the renovation costs and sell it for a profit. What's important, just in a basic deal analysis, you got to make money. You have to have a spread. You can't overpay for something and hope to sell it for even higher. So the very, very foundation of a deal is getting something under market value. And we're going to go into that on how to determine market value. Wholesaling, like everybody mentioned, they already kind of know what wholesaling is, but it's just an important term here. It's flipping the contract. If you're not licensed, you can't say you're selling a house because you have to be licensed to do that. So it's important to say contract for sale. But this is a great way if you've got a bunch of deals, or if you got like a few deals, if you got the bandwidth to buy a couple houses or just one house at a time and renovate it. If you're out there marketing or networking for deals, this is a great way. If you get another deal that comes along, you don't want to pass up on it. Billy right there might be looking for a deal, and he'd be happy just to pay you $5,000, $10,000 assignment fee. And I've seen assignment fees as high as $25,000, $50,000. So there's no real limit on that. And this is the best part right here. Out of all the types of deals, the one we want to focus on today is the rental, because the rental gives you cash flow. And this is where you buy a house, rent it out, and make cash flow on the difference of the rents. And if you get a mortgage, or you can buy them all cash. But anyways, so I got to keep an eye on the clock. That did work. There we go. All right, so this is what I want to spend the most of our time today talking about, and I think what everybody came for is just the parts of the deal and how to analyze them. The one right off the top is the most important, I think, the ARV, or what's referred to as the after repaired value, what something's worth after it's all fixed up. Because the basic way to get a deal is to buy something that needs some repairs, and the sellers are motivated, they don't have the funds for the repairs, or they don't want to take the time, energy, and effort to do the renovations. So, but it's important when you're looking at these houses, especially junkers, to begin with the end in mind and know what it's worth. Simple way to do this, a lot of people will call realtors, and if you're a realtor, you can, figure out the ARV, or if you're a new realtor, you need to keep practicing this skill set. It'll help you in selling properties. One thing I wanted to mention, my wife said if I had any one superpower, it would be determining the value on a property. And I like that. I mean, I do a lot of it. I've done a lot of sales transactions, a lot of flips. And with this skill, I'm going to go into some other slides in mindset later. It's just repetition is the mother of mastery, I think. But just it becomes muscle memory the more you look at things and compare and analyze. So I'm going to go over some steps on how to do that. One thing I do want to say real quick, though, is not to wear your realtor partners out, because you can really do that, especially if you're brand new getting into this. You're going to be really nervous. I'm like, man, I want to make offers, but I don't know what to offer. Here's some ways to do it without always calling an agent to ask for comps. Not a big fan of Zillow, but they do have the solds, and they'll put it on a map. So you want to start off with finding comparable homes. Has everybody heard the term comps? Comps, comparable sales. What you're looking for is homes that have sold in the last 3 to 6 months that are similar, and you want to compare apples to apples. So you want to make sure if they're, single families, you want to look at single families. If you're into multifamilies, look at multifamilies. But if they're condos, you want to look at other condos. So apples to apples. And then you narrow it. You start looking within, I'd say, depending on where you're at. If you're urban, you can have a smaller radius. If you're more suburban, you can go out a little bit further, like mile radius. If you get into rural areas, I just want to caution everybody with this. I had a mentor and a coach, and she actually wouldn't do rural deals if she couldn't find at least 3 to 4 sold comps that were similar. Because when you get land involved, it's all subject. If that land's rocky and hilly and you can't use it, and so you may want to pass on doing your first flips or rentals if you can't, and the rental, going back to the rental strategy, I know I talk a lot about flipping and rehabbing. That's kind of my background. But if you're using that BRRRR method, you need to know what it's worth so you can cash out, refinance, and rent the house. Because you can't, if you overestimate what it'll appraise for after it's fixed up. Oh, plus a fixed up flip and a fixed up rental have completely, the flip's usually higher on value. So going back to the apples, when you're pulling your comps, if you're on Zillow, or another great resource, this is a writer downer if you don't have an agent friend with MLS access, or Zillow's not doing it for you, is CRS, Courthouse Retrieval System. And all agents have access to this as well through MLS, but that'll show you can pull your own set of comps there. I will caution, I've got some good friends that are investors that don't use MLS, and they rely solely on CRS. And they'll just pull a grouping of sold comps, but you may have some other sales that were not open market sales, like on MLS. It might just been like, parents to their kid, and they know it's a $100,000 house, but we're just going to sell it for $50,000. Well, if you put that comp in your grouping, it's really going to skew the average in your numbers. Back to ARV. 4 to 5 sold comps. You want to get plus or minus a couple hundred square foot if you can. You can start narrowing it down to just the very best homes. And like I said, look at homes. If you're in East Nashville and there's a lot of high-end flips where they've done new kitchens and baths, really trendy with a lot of high-end upgrades and finishes, that's what you want to use for your comps. Or if you're looking for homes that are just fixed up basic to rent, you want to find 3 to 4 of those to use. Some other tips on this, I was talking with Pete from Vacasa, and you can get really worn out as an agent getting a bunch of people asking for comps all the time. So just respect your agent and tell them, hey, I'm going to commit to using you if you wouldn't mind running some comps. I'll usually run comps for somebody 3 or 4 times. I don't know if they're serious, if they're going to buy something or not. Another way, and this is an option I want to throw out there, is a broker price opinion. It's a short version of an appraisal, and usually you can get it done pretty quick, and those are around $100. So you may offer to pay an agent, hey, I'll give you broker price opinions. I've heard some people get real creative. Hey, can you take that out of the commission of the first house I buy? I think a lot of agents would be open to that. So that's another way to get another estimate. And of course, you can do an appraisal, but what you're needing to do is find something quickly to be able to make a decision and get an offer out. Here's one formula I'm going to throw out that's not on the slides, and it's a writer downer, but somebody taught me this one: 50% of what you think the ARV is, just buy it. And that's a great formula. I kind of laughed at it. This guy is the first wholesale deal I ever did, and I found the deal, and he had the end buyer, but I told him about it, and he made a decision really quick. I was like, wow, how'd you know you could sell that? And he's like, yeah, 50% buy it. I was like, what? And kind of quick true story with that. If I didn't implant that program in my head, I would have missed out on a lot of good deals. Like some of my first rentals I kept, I got them for $30,000 a piece in Murfreesboro, and they were worth around 100. Actually, they appraised at 120. They're worth about 200 now. But I had some friends, and I was going to wholesale them, and they passed on it just because they were ugly rehabs. They needed every bit of my rehab budget was 40. I spent 44,000. Whoever went over on a rehab budget on a house? Okay, good. Who's ever planned for too much money and paid themselves too much? Not many. So I always mess up there. I'm guilty on when you come to cost of repairs, underestimating. But they were thinking 50 to 60,000, but they still would have been good deals for a purchase price of 30, and I had an assignment of 6,000, but they didn't have that program. And later, after I kept them as rentals, and I talked to them like, we should have bought those houses. I'm like, yeah. But my wholesale deal blew up on me, and a buddy of mine coming to groups just like this had said, why aren't you keeping rentals? I was like, oh no, I can't do that. But today I want to show you how you can do that. I had some mental barriers. Oh, you got to have a lot of money to buy houses and keep houses. And that's not so with the BRRRR method where you can refinance out. Now you do want discipline. You need to have reserves if you're building a rental portfolio for when things like HVAC, roof come up to be able to pay for them. But anyways, after knowing the repair value, what something's worth when it's all fixed up, the next thing to do in analyzing your deal is cost of repairs. And this one, I recommend everybody find a sheet. I'm going to have my information up at the end. You can email me for a copy of the sheet that I use. It's just a one-page form that runs through everything from top to bottom. So roof, you want to look, does it need a roof? Windows, everything exterior, you go on the inside, paint, carpet, and you want to just put a price on each one of those. It's so important. And I know, has anybody else ever done this? You do something the first time, you really analyze it, you do really well with it. And then the second time you get overconfident, say, I don't need that. I can do this. I think it's about 30,000. Well, 50,000 later, the rehab was finished. And so I went back to, hey, use the repair estimate form. So if not, I'm sure if you Google repair estimate forms, you can find a lot. I don't think you need to go super complicated with this. And the reason is you can get down to the minutiae, tiny detail of like every single door stop and counting every single doorknob. Just have a miscellaneous number, 10%, to cover those kind of things. Because if not, you're going to just be wasting too much time, and you're going to have a loss of opportunity not analyzing more deals. So, but once you get what it's worth, what it's going to cost to fix it up, this one's really big here. I don't know which one's the laser. Oh, there it is. The other costs, this is kind of like another name I've heard is called the hidden costs. A lot of people miss this on their deal analysis. Even if you're doing rentals and you need to refinance out, and you talk to Billy, he'll help you with that, but you need to know what your closing costs are and put that in your deal. I call it TV math. Has everybody seen TV shows where they buy a house for $100,000, they plunk $50,000 for fix-ups, and we sold it for $200,000. So everybody thinks, we made $50,000 profit. Like, no, they're lucky if they made half that. So, you need to know that hidden cost of doing a deal, what it's going to cost if you're borrowing for it, your closing cost, your holding cost. Because every house, and it's funny, you talk to people like, you don't need to worry about that. Well, you got to mow the lawn. If not, codes is going to get on, you're going to have a bigger fine. So these holding costs, you need to total that up. I just use kind of a general $2,000, $2,500 in 6 months holding something until I rent it out, and that's going to cover your lights, your water, your lawn mowing, your insurance, all your holding costs. And going back down to other parts of the deal, the rents, this is also just like the after repaired value. You need to see what it's going to rent for. If you're, and don't get emotional with this, because everybody looks at it, it's like, man, if you're seeing market rents around $900 to $1,100, don't just think I'm going to put some really nice paint in here and I can get $1,200 rent, because it doesn't happen. So you want to be realistic, be very objective when you're analyzing, and just try and shoot for that middle, that sweet spot. So, but same thing, you can get a realtor, you can ask me, I'll run you comps for a few times. There's rentometer.com. That's a good resource to use to find some rent comps. And I know there's a Music&Money member here I was talking to that actually paid for the full version. So that gets you a little bit more detail so you can compare and get more accurate on your rent comps. But I use RealTrax as one of the places I look. My software, AppFolio, has access to other AppFolio users' rent comps. So a couple different ways you can get rent values there. But you need to know that when you make your offer. And then the offer is kind of the frame that holds everything in place when you're making a deal. Because the offer, a lot of people forget, they just think there's one car, it's a sedan, and it's cash as is. And then even if you're getting private hard money, But I love owner financing deals. Has anybody else put together any kind of owner financing deals? Billy, yeah, they're great. I mean, I had one in Murfreesboro. This is a few years back, but everybody kept giving them $50,000 cash as is, because that's what it was worth. It was a $120,000 house. And I know this seems dated because these were numbers like 4 or 5 years ago, and everything's gone up. But I offered him, he wanted $75,000. So I said, $75,000, I'll give you $750 a month for 100 months. And that's 0 interest. And he said, no, I need some money down. So I said, how much? And he said, well, $10,000. So it's $10,000 down, $65,000 over, $650 a month for 100 months. Oh, I don't like that because 100 months is an odd. It's 8 1/3 year. So we rounded. I think it's $677 and 18 cents. I'm like, fine, you win. Rent's for $1,200 a month. It's out of my IRA too, so it's all going to be tax-free when it's done. So yeah. So Mike Todd is who I use, IRA Innovations. He's a good guy, and that's another option you can use when analyzing. But yeah, the offer, if you package that offer, you may beat some other investors out there. So think creative on your strategy. Common formulas to know and use. Just go over these. The Mayo formula. Does everyone know Mayo eggs? No, I don't know. My wife put this in here. She's afraid I was going to put people to sleep, especially with some of these things are kind of dull and dry. But no, we're going to skip that. But that's what it's pronounced. My mentor, Robin Thompson, taught me this. Mayo maximum allowable offer. It's 70% of what a home's worth, the ARV, the after repaired value, minus the repairs. So all those parts we just went over, here's one way to look at it. And this, you can use this for a flip or a keep, because when you keep something, you need to, if you're going to refinance, if it's just cash, you can do that too. But if you're you need to know what your exit strategy is. And a lot of banks look around 80%, 75 to 80% after repaired value. So if you're buying here, you just, instead of making that profit, you're going to make, that'll be equity and cash flow, which will be better than just a flip, because a flip's a job. Going back to those deal types I had on there, the rehab and the wholesale, those are a job. The rich dad, poor dad, the cash flow quadrant, the ES, the employee self-employed. Now you can make a business out of rehabbing and wholesaling, but most people it's a self-employed job. But the BI, the business owner investor side, that's where you want to be with rentals. But anyways, I was just going over this formula. It's an important one to know to make an offer. And I've seen people step that up to 75% when we're in a really hot rising market. I think our market's kind of balanced right now. So I'm going back to buying at 70% minus repairs. And it's hard to find these deals. I mean, deals don't just fall in your lap. It's not like roast duck will fly in your mouth. I can't remember where I heard that one, but it's hilarious. But you got to go out and get these deals. You got to make offers. And a lot of people, you just make more offers. It's a numbers game. The more offers you make, you're going to get one of these to stick. And that's the thing to do, is to know, when they say yes, to buy the house. So 50%, buy it. Oh yeah, and that formula, there it is. A 200,000 ARV times 70% minus 40,000 in rehab, it happens to be 50%. So if you get that, when I say buy it, you can put it under contract and do your due diligence. If the back half of the house is eaten by termites and fallen off, you can, have your inspection period. Use Dave here, House on the Rock, have it home inspected, make sure you're getting a good deal. All right, gross rent multipliers. This is going more towards the cash flow formulas. And all this is anybody familiar with rent multipliers or use them regularly? A few people. This is when I started buying rentals, those wholesale deals that blew up on me in Murfreesboro. My buddy showed me this formula, and he actually bought cheaper. He would use 70 times rent, but I use 75. It's really hard in Nashville with the market going up to find stuff this way, but the old Henry Ford saying, either you think you can or you think you can't. Either way, you're right. So just think you can. Just make more offers. Deals are out there. I bought one in Murfreesboro, $75,000. It's probably worth about $190,000. Now it needs $50,000 in rehab, and it's horribly ugly. But at the end of the day, it should rent for around $1,200. So I'm actually off on my own formula here. But my method has changed. As long as I can BRRRR it, like cash out refinance, and it's got cash flow, I'm going to buy it. But this is a good formula to start with on quick numbers. And all that 75 is a number that it's a quick way to do the long formula. And the long formula is, what's this going to rent for? What's, if you get debt financing on it, what kind of cash flow, what kind of return you want. So it just boils it down to a simple number to use. So the example I've got here is something's renting for $1,000, 75 times $1,000 rent minus 10,000 in repairs means you'd want to buy that house for around 65,000. So I know a little bit harder to find here, but a lot of people are going out surrounding counties. I bought a house in Dixon, really close to this formula. Okay, the 1% rule. This rule is really similar to the gross rent multiplier, but it's different because it's based on the sales price, and you just take 1% of the sales price. I think this is, that first formula I showed you is way more conservative. So if you're conservative as an investor, that one's gonna be more your formula to use. This one, 1% of the sales price, it's gotta be equal to or less than the rent amount. So my example here is a $100,000 house, it's got at least rent for $1,000. If it rents for, $900, you don't want it. If it rents for $1,100, buy it. So, all right, move forward here. This formula is great. I heard this from Brandon Turner. I know he's a guest here regularly. He's awesome, but I didn't invent this one. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then the last R is repeat. This is a golden formula to know and have, and you use those other parts of buying, like your rent multipliers, to know you're going to make sure it rents so you can refinance it. As you talk to Billy, I've got some other formulas here on what you need to know to refinance out. But once you do this formula, you buy it under market. And this is one of my stumbling blocks why I didn't get into rentals. I thought, I got to have a lot of money. Well, I'll just wait and I'll save and save and save, do the Dave Ramsey, pay cash, which isn't a bad idea. But once I had these 2 wholesale deals in Murfreesboro, they're side by side, identical houses. And a buddy of mine, we were at lunch, and he's like, man, why don't you keep these? I was like, nah, I got a wholesale. We just got a new house. My wife, we need furniture in the new house. And these money programs weren't serving me well, but he's like, look at this. And he's in the hard money lending business. So of course he showed me how it works. And it was a win-win. At the end of the day, it was 15% and 3 points. And back then, that's what a lot of people were paying private money. Nowadays, it's a lot cheaper, but deals are less. So it always flip-flops. But he showed me where I could borrow all the rehab, all the purchase, and I actually borrowed a little bit more. I paid myself a $7,500 project management fee and made it work and rented it out. It cash flowed, refinanced, super happy, kept the assets, kept the equity. And the final slide for today is the money tree plan. You'll see how that appreciation really, really compounds. So good method here, the BRRRR method. Other terms, I got a lot of slides to go over, so I'll kind of just touch on these. You can feel free to call me and ask more questions. People like Billy Brown might be able to better assist on some of the formulas, but cap rate simply is net operating income divided by the sales price, and your net operating income is just the gross income. So you got an apartment building. The cap rates are used a lot more in multifamily than single family, at least from what I've seen. So if you have $100,000 gross rents, and somebody told me 45% is a good expense ratio, so your net operating income would be $55,000. Divided by $1 million sales price, you got a 5.5 cap rate. Is my math right? Thank you. And then so if you buy that same house for half the price, $500,000, you're gonna have like a 11 cap. Guessing, doing mental math here, it's dangerous. But one quick story on cap rate. I did take a CCIM course, and the instructor, she probably told this story better than I can, but it stuck with me. When we hear stories, we can remember things. With cap rate, her story was having a good-looking guy with a cap on, and the lower the cap rate, the less attractive he was because you couldn't see him. But the higher the cap rate, so if you get like a 10 or 11 cap, that same $500,000 example, yeah, I'd buy that for $500,000, 11 cap on an apartment building. I don't know if they're around in Nashville, but good story to remember. Cap rate, the higher, the better. Lower, not as good return. So cash on cash return, another way to calculate your return, percent of cash invested. Buy a $120,000 house, all cash. It rents for $1,000 a month, $12,000. You got 10% cash on cash return. I had a longer formula for leverage, but it's just figure you can almost, if you get $20,000 down, 80% mortgage, you're gonna see over 20% return. But leverage is a double-edged sword, so you gotta be careful, especially in a downturn. It can cut the other direction. DSCR, or debt coverage ratio. This is what banks want to know, and this one bit me after I'd already bought 3 or 4 rentals. I bought another one at a higher price, it was around $250. Well, the ARV was $250. I was in it for about $180, but the debt coverage ratio for the rents didn't work out once I went over that $250 number. So you need to check that and put that in your formula and make sure you can cash out, refinance everything you've got into it if that's your plan. So talk to a good lender. They can help you out with that. Next. Yeah, I'll pause right now. We're about halfway through and just want to open this up. Is there the box for questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't been here before, we have this thing that we like to call our catch box, and Jericho's got it back there. So if you have a question, just throw your hand up. He will literally toss it to you. It will not hurt you, but you just talk straight into the top of it. So.
Are we on? Yeah, all right. Great. Hey, Jeff. Hey, so I saw you were you're analyzing the ARVs, but I've had a lot of friends either overestimate the ARV or underestimate the rehab cost and then end up going under on the project.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What are your systems to ensure that you will end up cash flow positive?
Sure. I always run your own numbers first thing with that question. And I got a lot of good friends that are good wholesalers, but they're not good rehabbers. And nothing wrong with them. They just don't really know the rehab cost. And I've seen it go the other way too, where they think it's $40,000 in rehab and I can get it done for 30. So it does go both ways, but you always want to verify your own numbers. And even if you're getting an agent to help you with comps, do your own double check. I mean, I hate the Zestimate number. You can't go off that alone. But just take that in consideration. I've seen that go really high a lot of times, but I've also seen it go low. So just add all these pieces of information up and make your own best decision. And going back to the repetition, the more you do this, the better you're gonna get. Especially once you do some deals and say, yeah, wow, that didn't appraise well. You figure it out. But yeah, did that help you with your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, hey, Billy.
Here's a tee-up question for you.
Okay.
If you're going to hold a property, wouldn't it make sense to reach out to a trusted property manager first?
Yeah.
Make sure two things. One is they're going to want you to manage it for you, and two, to see the actual market rents.
Correct. Yeah, and same thing if you're selling or refinancing, you get a realtor or a property manager. I'd love to run comps for somebody. At the end of the day, though, I can't run comps on every single house for everybody every day. It's, Pete was talking about 60 for Vacasa, and that's just a lot to run. But yeah, no, that's a great strategy. But what you can do too, if you get it under contract, you can get close. You can say, hey, rents are around, gosh, I'm saying 900 to 1,200. That's the range. Or if they're around 2,000, you're at like 1,800 to 2,500. Hey, you can call me, and I can usually give you a ballpark. But here's the real test on value is the marketplace in sales or rentals. If you have something on the market for sale for a couple of months, you're getting no showings, no offers, no activity. You're way overpriced. You need to make about a 5-10% adjustment. Same thing on the rents. If it's a couple of weeks, I just scale it down a little bit. We're getting no feedback, no showings. We're way overpriced. Need to make a slight adjustment. So does that help? Thanks for the tip.
Yes, absolutely. So the point there is call Jeff.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Other questions?
Any questions?
Yeah. If not, I've actually got one for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we talk a lot about analyzing the deal, and the whole point is to kind of balance against a assumed criteria of I'm not going to invest in something if it doesn't make me less than whatever. When you're making that decision, are you basing that off of cash on cash return? And if so, has that kind of changed? Has your criteria changed over the years as the market has changed? Just, for example, when I started out buying properties, it wasn't super hard to find something that you could earn a 20% cash on cash return on. Nowadays, especially in Nashville, that's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
So I've had to kind of lower my expectations a little bit. So can you maybe speak to how you view it personally, and
Sure.
maybe how you advise if there's an investor that comes to you and says, I'm looking to get into this thing, what should I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Help me with criteria.
Yeah, no, I think it's great just to have some foundations, like Seth saying, some basic formulas, like, hey, I want to invest at this, on this return. And then what you got to do is you got to commit to it, like your why, and really go after that formula. Like I started with 75 times rent, and I bought quite a few rentals that way, but my formula has changed over the last few years with the Nashville market going up. And I told you my new formula now is I can BRRR it, and I can get at least $100, $200 cash flow, minimum 100. I want to see some cash flow. So that's what my formula has changed. I haven't really bought on cash and cash return, but I know a lot of investors, that's what they're going on, and that's a really good formula to use as well.
Just to clarify that, that's $100 per unit per month?
Net. Yep,
Net.
$100 per month per unit, and that's net after everything. And you got to figure in vacancy, maintenance, repair, well, long-term repairs, but I just do maintenance and management. And you got to figure, I pay myself property management fees because it's a job. If you're not hiring that out, you're going to be, you need to pay yourself for your time. So, but that answer that question, Seth?
Yeah, and I've got a follow-up if nobody else has got one too, just because it's bringing up a lot of great points.
Okay.
So can you talk maybe a little bit about just, what have you been doing? Because I know the big thing nowadays is obviously Nashville, especially the short-term rentals. We just talked about it a lot last month. Michael did a great presentation on that. Are these, would you consider being in a market like ours to sort of switch strategies over to something more like that to make the numbers work? Or do you kind of just, stay put, wait till there's a deal available and just pounce on it when it's available? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question, Seth. Yeah, it's easy. I get really distracted, the shiny object syndrome, so we trial everything. My wife manages one of our short-term rentals, but they're different categories. I'd say you're better to kind of stay focused with what it is. And for me, I like singles. I got a buddy, nothing but duplexes. He likes duplexes. So I would try and stick with your strategy. You're right, with Nashville going up, it's a little bit different. And I know a lot of people going outside of Nashville. That's not a bad idea, but you got to make sure your team's in place with good management. I still have the first home we ever bought. It was still in Valdosta, Georgia, outside of Moody Air Force Base, and it's I've had to go through 3 managers down there, but I'm really happy with the team I've got in place now. We had a multifamily in Lawrenceburg, way too far out, had to sell it, no team in place. So if you're moving location, just have your team in place. One other thing I want to add, what you said, I know everybody says you can't find deals in Nashville, but it's that Henry Ford, you think you can or you think you can't. Either way, you're right. So I think you can. I picked one up in Davidson County. At Billy's, it's packaged in a loan. He's refinancing it. We got it for $140. I thought it was worth $200. It appraised at $190. But, it's close to being under. And I put $5,000 in it, carpet and a little bit of touch-up paint. It's already rented, too, $1,350 with $25 pet rent, $1,375. So close to that 1% rule, but a little different. So my formula, to go back to your question, it has shifted a little bit. Yeah. So, cool.
Hey, thanks for all the awesome information.
Yeah,
so that's, once you've captured that deal, you found something that hits those numbers, what kind of criteria do you look for tenants on the back end to make sure
and that's
just like a basic?
That's a huge part. I mean, I can go over our basic qualifications, and I put it just as that, but once we get somebody in with an application, we have it more detailed in our property management company. Because, if you're self-managing or hiring out, and that's a good question to ask property managers. I had my IRA property, this is why I started a management business. My IRA property, I'm not supposed to contribute, and then self-management, because I'm licensed, that could see blowing up the IRA or whatever. So, all right, I'll manage it, have it hired out. And no, but to go back to your question, some basics if you're self-managing is you can find ways to do credit background check services out there. There's one that's, I can't remember the name of it now, Rent Perfect. You might write that down if you're like self-landlording. Have them go through that, make sure you see what their credit is, make sure our qualifications, no bankruptcies on credit, no evictions on background. The evictions, that's huge. You're gonna get so many people, and I went through a landlording 101 course back when I got started, and the piece of advice I remember is get a rental application. You can go to, I use one off MrLandlord.com. You get that signed application because you're trying to check their background. And if you don't have that, if you go to an apartment building, my first rental home we used to live in, I got that signed application. It saved me probably thousands of dollars of going through an eviction and hassle because we sent it to the apartment complex and they're like, yeah, they've got like, I don't know, they were in there for like 5 or 6 months. They only paid like the first 2 months rent. And they were late those times they paid, and they hadn't paid anything else in evictions. They were actually getting set out the next day. So if you get anybody like coming up to your rental, they got cash and they want to come in today, that's like a big red flag. So yeah, does that answer your question on criteria?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
So how are you, so do you invest outside of Nashville still, like in Memphis? Things like that, or in Valdosta, or
I
most of your
don't.
units?
I don't. The Valdosta
Okay.
is just a home we lived in, and that's a great method. New every 2. You can save the capital gains if you live in a house for a couple years. And
So I guess my question really pertaining to that was, how are you managing your contractors when they're doing these builds? Are you paying them a certain percentage up front, or
You talking about
like
our
the rehabs
out-of-state
or
investments?
Yeah, so like when you buy the unit and you have people helping you fix it up, how are you kind of managing those timelines to make sure that the project comes in on budget?
Out of state, I really don't like. I'm not a fan of taking on out of state rehabs unless
Or
you
in
know
Nashville.
people and good stuff.
Or
Yeah,
in
in Nashville, I have a big vendor list, and that's what we can provide as a value to our clients. One thing that sets me apart in management is I don't upcharge on maintenance. That's regular routine maintenance. Now, if somebody brings me a rehab, more than $2,500 and more than 2 vendors. So if you got like a $5,000 roof, I'm not going to charge you $500 to make one phone call. But if you need a rehab, I do provide that service for management clients. But it's a lot. Managing the rehab and contractors is a big job. Right. So we do charge 10% if it's more than 2 vendors and $2,500. But on regular routine maintenance, if plumber calls at $200, I'm not going to charge $20. It's not going to be $220. And I've had a lot of different management companies. That was one reason I wanted to start my own thing, is I didn't like that. But one other thing, if our plumber goes out there and they pull a kid's toy out of the toilet, that's the tenant's damage. I will charge the tenant back. So I truly, when I tell people in my property management business, we manage your properties as if they were our own. I truly do. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to move on because I got something really, really good. I want to make sure I have time to share with you that money tree plan for financial freedom. Something else, mindset. Yeah, if anybody else had any questions, I'll be here afterwards and be glad to help out. Your approach. This is huge. Mindset, and it's so important to know your mindset and what you're doing, kind of like your why. I have a friend, when I was getting started, I remember him saying this. We were both doing mail marketing. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to try this mail marketing thing for 6 months or 6 weeks. I think it was 6 months. He's like, I'm going to put all this money in it, and then when it doesn't work, I'm going to quit. And I didn't, I caught it at the time because I had started going to seminars. I'm listening to all this positive mindset stuff. And sure enough, he did it for 6 months and he quit. But I should have told him, hey, just pay me half of what you're going to spend. I'll tell you it doesn't work, and I'll save you 50% of your marketing bill. But so it's really important on your approach. How you think about it is everything. Hey, I'm going to do this for 6 months, and I'm going to buy a house. And if I don't buy a house, I'm going to figure out what went wrong, and I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do it for another 6 months, and I'm going to buy a house. So it's important. How best to think. I got a slide coming up with my favorite books, but this one I got from T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Has anybody ever read that book? It's a good one. But he talks about both mentality, and I'll paraphrase a little bit out of that. He talks about, rich, middle class, and poor mindsets. And he said he's generalizing on purpose here, so don't, I'm just repeating what he said. The middle class, and I would consider myself, I was in that mindset with the either or thinking. And I think a lot of people in society today have either or mindset. Oh, I can't have my cake and eat it. It's either or. Either I'm gonna have the cake or I'm gonna eat it. But I can't have both. But rich, that's the mindset. It's both. You can have your assets, your rentals, your financial freedom, and your time. You can have it all. It's just how you think about it. Make a decision to think that way. The poor, he talks about, they think they can't have a cake. It's too rich, so they have a donut. They focus on the hole in the middle and wonder why they don't have anything. So that's T. Harv. That's not me. But I think how we think is super important into getting into this venture and analyzing deals. So, see where I'm at on time. Oh, we're good on time. Repetition, like I've said a few times, it's so important. It becomes muscle memory. You get the basics down. You just do it over and over and over again. And this story stuck with me. Has anybody heard of the tale of 2 art classes that were making clay pots on the pottery wheel? I don't remember what speaker who I got this from, but it's not mine. I just remember it. But there was 2 classes an art teacher was teaching, a morning class and an afternoon class. And the morning class, to get an A in his class, he told him, you just have to make 1 perfect pot on the pottery wheel. That's it, just 1 at the end of the semester. And then he goes to the afternoon class, completely different. He goes to them and says, hey, to get an A in my class, all you have to do is make 100 pots on the spinning wheel. I don't care what they look like. You just got to make 100. And at the moral of the story, well, let me ask everybody, because I was wrong when I first heard this story. Who guessed that at the end of the semester, the morning class that had to make just 1, or the afternoon class that had to make 100, which class made better pots on the pottery wheel? Who says A, the morning class? Nobody. Oh, I was wrong when I heard this, but everybody says the afternoon? Afternoon class, yeah, it is. It's the afternoon. The more you do something over and over, the better you get at it by default. But this, if I can share this with anybody getting started, I really had paralysis analysis. I would overanalyze things, and that's why I thought that morning classroom, the A part, well, yeah, I'm gonna make 1 deal perfect. But I was missing out on all the opportunity cost on analyzing other deals by just focusing on 1 house. And before I know it, it was sold anyways. So you can't waste too much time. You just got to take action. So, all right. Move over to this. Oh yeah, we're really good on time. These are my 3 favorite book recommendations. And I heard from somewhere else if you meet somebody successful or doing well, ask them their top 3 books, and that's where I've got all 3 of these books. T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, my mentor in rehabbing houses, Robin Thompson. That was her #1 read. I'd say it's my #1 read. I love it. The end of the book, he tells you to read it again once a month for a year. And I didn't do that, but I did read it once every 2 months out loud with my wife. And that, it changed our lives. We fought like crazy. But at the end of the day, we agreed on money, which was huge. And he talks about that, having different money blueprints with a partner. They may see things a little bit differently, but how you can have a third money blueprint that's congruent, that works. So I would write that one down. That's a good book. Of course, the classic Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Actually, I've got the book, but I haven't read it. I've worn out the audio CDs. So the classic Richest Man in Babylon. And I think I heard Jim Rohn mention it, and he in speaking, the late Jim Rohn, he talked about, library cards are free, but you got to go down and get it. So go get that book. It's a good read. But all of these books will greatly help you in mindset, and they're good reads. This one, The Richest Man in Babylon, I'm not a big reader. I've become a bigger reader. It's just full of stories, and it's really easy to read, and they make a lot of sense. They'll really stick with you and help you on your path to success. So, all right, we're good on time here. This one I'm gonna spend a little bit of time. This is the last part I've got for everybody today. I saved the best for last. This is the Money Tree Plan for Financial Freedom. Here is a written plan to become financially free. And I didn't create this. I got it from a friend of mine, Dr. Phil Lanevsky. And I talked to him the other day, and he said, well, he didn't create it either. But the numbers are close to what he shared with me and what he retired at age 40 with, and is living the dream financially free. So I'll jump into this. And my wife did a lot of the slides, but actually I did this one to try and draw. I've done this before teaching on a whiteboard, and it's a little bit easier. So that's my image of a house on a tree. But it's the plan starts with this, simple. I like simplification, just keep it simple. Buy 1 house a year. And if you want, you can double this. You can buy 2 houses a year or 4 houses a year. Just set a goal, but just start with 1. Buy 1 rental house a year. And it can be any of the strategies. If you got cash you want to invest to be financially free, you can do it cash, you can do it financed. My way to do this, though, is the BRRRR method. So, but you want to repeat, because we're going to go to year 2, you're going to buy another house. But no, that mindset. You can do this. You can borrow private money. If the deal's there, you can refinance all of that out of there and get your 1 rental house with no money. And you can do this with a full-time job. You can do if you have your goal, just 1 house a year set. I've got to walk through 100 houses. By the time you walk through 100 houses, you're going to buy one. If you're doing these steps and analyzing them and making the offer, you got to make the offer. So you buy a house after year 1. Also in year 1, we're just going to say it's a $100,000 example. Now in Nashville, you might say $200,000-300,000. So we're going to double your financial freedom. If you don't like the freedom of the cash flow at the end of this, just double these numbers. But on this $100,000 house, I'm going to give an example with leverage. Let's say I BRRR it. I buy it for $50,000. I put $20,000 in fix-ups, and I've got $10,000 hidden costs, miscellaneous, project management, pay yourself, and it mortgages for $80,000, and it cash flows. So year 1, we've got 1 house. Year 2, you want to buy another house. And this is the secret sauce for this formula that Phil Lanevsky showed me. He had the charts. I think I did Google it one time. This is probably about 3-4 years ago. But you take over a 100-year period in the U.S., and it seems high. And you can do this formula with 4%. I actually did it with 4%. It worked for me or my needs. But over a 100-year period, homes in the U.S. have gone up by 5% appreciation. So this is really the set it and forget it part of the plan, is just appreciation. Actually, when I first created my financial freedom plan, it was 100% on cash flow. Like, well, if I can get $300 in cash flow, and this is before I was really figuring out vacancy and maintenance costs, and I need 10 houses, that's $3,000. That's what I made as a machinist when I was in the Air Force. And that's all I need is 10 houses. But I realized vacancy and maintenance, cash flow is not where it's at when it comes to to real estate. And then there's a lot of different ways to make money. You got cash flow, you got appreciation, you've got depreciation. See Chris Spicurio for help on your taxes. But there's a lot of ways you can make money in real estate. But who thinks cash flow is the number one way to make money? A few people. I did when I got started. But who thinks appreciation? Yeah, that's where I think this plan really lies, is in the appreciation. If you've heard, like Einstein says, compound interest is the best. Well, if you do it leveraged in real estate, you're really on fire. So we'll move to year 2. So year 3 and 10, we're just going to keep buying one house a year. Buy another house. Year 4, market's going up, things are great. Year 5, it's not going up. Yeah, and as the market goes down, this whole plan is based on, the markets go up and markets go down. But remember, it's 5% appreciation averaged. So our plan's based on an average. So going back up, buy another house, 9, year 10, and it's gone back up past where it went down. So prices have been going up. We're trying to visualize that 5%. But what do we do at year 11? Do we buy another house? Well, I probably will. But you don't have to. This plan is for financial freedom, to have your passive income exceed your expenses. So all you have to do, nope, you don't need to buy another house. Technically, you're financially free right now if you just did this. And depending on what your expenses are. All you have to do is refinance house number 1. And like I said, I'm working with Billy Brown right now. He's super helpful on our package loan, on getting some cash out refinance done on some properties right now. But we go back to year number 1 and what happened. This is the magic in the plan. After 11 years, house number 1, that money tree we planted, it's grown over 11 years. And I think I just took a financial calculator. I did 11 years, 5%, no payments. And that $100,000 grew to $163,000 value. So this is really the secret in this formula, in this plan, is just the appreciation. But also something else has happened here. Our mortgage, our $80,000 mortgage, our tenant, our cash flowing property where the tenant's making rent payments, has gone down. So the tenant's been paying this house off for us. So it's gone down to only $53,000 from $80,000. So the difference here, and this is my last slide on the money tree. You can 80% of the new value, the $163,000, minus our lower mortgage amount, $53,000, equals $77,000 in cash out refinance. Now, who would be happy with $77,000 passive every year? And actually, I checked with Chris. Y'all need to talk to Chris. He's smart. He's really smart, because the guy that told me this plan, he's a dear friend. I love him. And he said, yeah, borrowed money is tax-free. The answer is maybe. The answer is see Chris, because I'm not a tax CPA. I can't give legal or tax advice. But yeah, the way I've heard this plan presented is tax-free. But either way, it's still $77,000. I mean, and if you didn't like these numbers, buy $200,000 houses. You make $140,000 cash out. And then year 2, you can refinance that house, and you still keep the assets. And it's just living on debt. That's what kind of our government's doing. But I won't get into politics. But anyways, we are in a debt finance system. So, and I'm not as sharp as I'd like to be there. But anyways, yeah, that's my money plan for financial freedom, is just buy one house a year. So you apply everything we learned, how to analyze the deals, what kind of deals you're looking for, houses, rentals. You can figure out the repairs, so you can BRRR it, get an under market deal. Once you BRRRR it, you do this step here, you refinance it, you see Billy, and you repeat, you do it again. So I hope this was helpful for everybody. Did this make sense? And I'll open it up. We've got a couple minutes here for questions. So. Oh, yeah, I'll put this back up here. Yep. Oh, yeah, Billy's. Oh, and I got one other thing I want to add after questions. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, maybe this is a question for Billy. I don't know.
Okay.
Is a 6-month seasoning of a property purchase still a thing, or is that gone now?
In my experience, it's Billy's shaking his head. Yes, I mean, you want to give him the mic? Or, do you want the mic? Do you want to answer that? Yeah.
We'll talk to the guy who knows what he's talking about on lending.
In the words of Chris Mercurio, it depends. So no, the seasoning depends on the lender. 6 months is traditional for Fannie Freddie, as well as some bank lenders will go 12. I do have non-bank lenders that will go no seasoning, 30-day seasoning, or usually that 3 to 6 month seasoning is typical. So again, it depends on how good your cash flow is and how well you bought it. It's all in the buy, guys. So, all right. So now that we talk about this one deal, my lender hat on, this is what I'm helping people make money off of and really see. Have you yet to put a slide in here where you do, instead of one, we do 5, 6, 7 of these things because you're 3 years past with that appreciation. You can actually bundle 5 or 6, 7 of these things instead of pull out $77,000, pull out $200,000, $300,000, and then go do additional leverage on apartments and all that, where you do infinite.
Get with Billy on
returns.
syndication deals.
Yeah.
Or go ahead. Yeah.
But you can buy apartment buildings at that point, and that's where you go exponential growth instead of small, small, small. It's now you've got $300,000. Now you buy an apartment building and go up.
Yep.
So we may need to get there on this and then show this. Maybe a good slide for my ebook on this, but that's
I'll email it to you.
Once I figured this out, guys, on that it wasn't the cash flow, it was the appreciation. Going, there's no amount of money you can go literally. There's people out there right now in bigger cities pulling out $1 million, $2 million out of these big apartments, and that's tax free, for them. You go, how many years of cash flow do I have to go do that? But they started small, boom. You leverage that up. So this is very, very powerful. This is the strategy I use. They said, one, we do 8, 9, or 10 of these things at a time, and that's where you start getting very, very big results.
Yep. Yeah, I would say this is baby step 1, but you're right, Billy. This can compound and go astronomical on what you can do.
One comment / I guess question for you. This also assumes that market rents are growing kind of with appreciation so that your rent can support your.
Correct. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of variables. Yeah, because the rents may go down too. And but at the end of the day, it's just kind of averaged. As long as, and here's one thing, this example does not even take into consideration cash flow or your depreciation, what you're going to save on taxes. If you're still at a W-2 job, you can talk to Chris, you can get your taxes you can save. So you're right, the rents could go down and this and that. And that's one thing though, to comment on that. If the market does go down, if prices go down, that means people aren't able to qualify and the economy's down. They got to live somewhere. So rentals, your rentals are going to be in demand. So I think even if rents go down, homes will stay occupied. So go ahead, Michael. Yeah.
One question regarding the cash out refi. So let's say your original mortgage payment with interest and principal, what was that before you cash out refi?
Oh yeah, I did 25-year AM, and I did on this example.
I'm talking about the amount. How much was your monthly payment for that house?
I'd have to get a calculator out and figure it out. But I'm assuming we'll just use a $80,000 mortgage, like around $600 payment, your $1,000 rents.
And then you cashed out refinance, you took money out, and now how much is your payment now on this property?
You're right. See, when you do this for me, I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah, you want to make sure your numbers still work when you cash out because your payment's going to go up. But hopefully, over that same 11 years, your rents have gone up as well. Okay. So in theory, fantasy land, it works that way. But you're very smart. You got to pay attention to what's going on. If you're pulling this out, you got to make sure your refinance works. And the bankers.
When you cashed out refi, did you do another 25 years so to keep that monthly payment kind of low? Or
Billy's got 30-year.
Or a 30-year, whatever. So I'm just trying to determine how much difference of monthly payment average you're gonna have when you actually do a cash out refi. Okay, so you're paying $600 a month for the past 10 years. Boom, 10 years later you cash out refi for another 30 years, so you took $70K out. What is your monthly payment now on this property?
I'd put it on a mortgage calculator real quick. I mean, we can figure that out.
No, even approximate. I'm talking about, is it $200 more?
Let's say doubled, because if you had an $80,000 mortgage and you're pulling out, you're not pulling out 77. You got a total of 150, 1.5.
What'd you say? The lender protects you.
Actually, you beat me to that. Yep.
Right, so the lender's not going to let you not allow you to cash out if there's not enough buffer for for the property to sustain itself.
Yep, exactly.
I know this. Okay?
The lenders really are your friends. They've got their best interest, but yours as well. They're not going to want you to over leverage this where it's not going to cash flow.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do a loan. That 1.25 debt covered ratio, they're going to want to see $1.25 coming in for every dollar of debt.
And that's where I was coming, because I think a lot of us are here sitting. It's okay, I cash out refi, so I now restarted the loan, so my cash flow now is probably going to be less than what I had. even though there's balances out with because the rents are higher than when you started 10 years ago. But I'm just trying to, in my mind, like an average, was there going to be $200 more, 150?
I would say 1.5 times, because if you got 53 and 77's, what, 80, 130?
I'm terrible at math.
Yeah, I'd say about 1.5 times. But hopefully your rents have also gone up 1.5 times. Kind of that same, this number's 11 years at 1.05 or 5% annualized appreciation.
So what you are saying in a nutshell, obviously your payment will go up. Your monthly payment will go up, but because your rents are higher, and now obviously you got $77,000 in your pocket that hopefully you won't go buy a brand new G-Wagon or something. You're just gonna go and reinvest that. So that money will make you more money.
Yeah, you can reinvest that, exactly.
And the property will still support that new loan that you refi.
Yep, exactly. Cool. All right, we got one in the back.
And I also do want to comment too, that I love this model because even if, like Michael was saying, he brought up a really good point, the cash flow is gonna shrink. But at this point, you're technically going from a 10% cash on cash return to now you've gone to an infinite cash on cash return because you have none of your own money in it. You've pulled it all out. So even if you're making $50 a month still, you're making an infinite return. And that's the power of this this entire model. So
awesome.
we got a question back here.
Thank you for all this. So
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so paradigm shifting to buying on appreciation instead of cash flow. I'm considering this as a strategy for my self-directed IRA.
Yep. Huge.
So how hard is it to find, if I'm going to use a mortgage leverage strategy, is it hard to find lenders to lend inside the IRA?
Mike, my IRA custodian, he knows of a few, but they're a little more strict. Instead of like 80% loan to value, they might want like 70 or 65 or something like that. There's one. 80% for IRAs. Wow. They get with Michael. Michael,
I need that number.
Yep. So see, the power of networking is huge. So, okay. Chris, you got a question? Oh.
Okay, first of all, Jeff, thank you very much. And then if you're going to use the self-directed IRA in conjunction with a mortgage, you just need to be very careful because you technically are going to own 80% of that property personally, so you're not going to enjoy all the benefits of a self-directed IRA if you're using a mortgage in conjunction with using the self-directed to put the down payment down. So just throwing it out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's good to know.
Still a good situation.
Seek your professionals.
Yeah.
One option would be just outside the box if you're self-employed and you qualify to create a solo 401k plan, then you could potentially take a tax-free loan up to $50,000 or 50% of the value, and you have 5 years to pay that back. So then you're owning that rental property. You're leveraging some of your retirement assets without taking a taxable distribution.
Makes sense.
Boom. That just made somebody a ton of money. Thanks, Chris. Any other questions? We got somebody down front. Billy, you're a man of questions today.
Yeah, nice.
I love it. What comment?
Self-directed IRA, the power in that in the investing world is not lending yourself, it's partnering with people. Let that sink in. Because if you have the money, someone else has the ability to borrow, you can actually lend them the money and you don't have any debt on that self-directed IRA.
Say it one more time. Yeah.
So basically you would just put your money in a self-directed IRA. Let's say I lend it to you at whatever rate we agree. Then you actually use that money. Well, I mean, after seasoning, I assume you have to let it season. No? Okay, we're partners, but okay. So then you use it to buy an asset, and then it's a little bit complicated, but I like it.
Good.
The self-directed IRA is very, very powerful if you know how to use the straightforward method. I'm just going to go leverage it through a lender, which there's one. It's very, very difficult to go find that, but you go partner. That's where it becomes a lot more fun. And it becomes basically infinite possibilities on how to go buy properties. And lenders actually like that.
Nice.
Back to you, Jeff.
Okay, cool. And I'll stick around for questions afterwards, but I wanted to say one other thing. Now that you have your beautiful money tree orchard here, you got this big farm. Just like any farmer, they got to take care of their crops. They got to take care of keeping any pests out and make sure they're watching over it, which that's a job, and that's where I can come in to help you all out. I want to thank you all. Be glad to help you with your property management, take care of the tenants, toilets, and trash, have your passive income be truly passive. So love to take over the job of property management for y'all. We do things a little bit different. We'll save you money on vacancy and maintenance. Ask me how. And thank you again for coming out. So thanks.
Yeah, and I can't overstate the importance of having a good property manager enough. I think if at one point somebody asked me the question of if there was one factor in your deal that could either make it or break it, blow it up, or make it not work at all, it's going to be your management, your property management. That is where you're going to live and die on these deals. So make sure if you, get a meeting with Jeff. If you've got property management that you're not happy with, if you want to get a second opinion, if you are currently self-managing your properties, feel sorry for you, but see yes. Jeff. It's all about systems and processes. I love that pottery example, the 100 yes. pots. That was good.
I agree with you 100%. When I have a client that wants a multifamily or regular rental, my first email is to 2 different property managers in the area. Say, hey, what do you know about this area? What do you think? See, a lot of deals will look great on paper, and if you actually get paid, like I can find any of you today a 14 cap in Memphis. I'll just go on my phone. There's 20 of those. If you actually get paid. So you want to talk to the property manager that's already managing in that area and say, hey, what's happening here? Because they're the ones that they'll tell you if they don't want it. If they don't want it, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't know if it's a 20 cap. So that is the first line of defense, I think, when analyzing like a rental deal. It's like, is this going to be an okay rental?
Right. Yeah. So, man, that was so awesome. I learned a ton. How many people learned something new this morning? That's like most of the room. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. Let's give it up one more time for Jeff Lai.
Hey, thanks for learning with us today on the show.
We would love to meet you at one of our free monthly meetups in Middle Tennessee.
Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing on this channel.
Check out another awesome investing video here.